All right, today we are diving into one of Hollywood's most fascinating, most mythic figures, Nicolas Cage. For years, his life has been surrounded by these urban legends that are so wild, they honestly sound like they're straight out of one of his movies. But he just gave his first TV talk show interview in over a decade, and we're gonna use his own words to finally get some answers. Yeah, you heard that right, 14 years. That's how long it's been. So the fact that he's finally sitting down and talking makes his answers to all these long-standing rumors a pretty big deal. It's a rare chance to see the man behind the myths. So let's get into it. Two-headed snakes, caves full of bats, being stalked by mimes. What's the real story? We're putting the most famous urban legends to the test. For each one, we'll look at the story, and then we'll reveal what Cage himself had to say. Is it fact, or is it just pure Hollywood fiction? First up, there's this story about a legendary night of gambling. The myth goes that he turned just a couple $100s into an absolute fortune. So what really happened? Well, the story is true, but the numbers have definitely gotten a little inflated over the years. No, he didn't win hundreds of thousands. Cage confirmed he won exactly $20,000 playing roulette down in the Bahamas about 20 years ago. But the way it happened is just incredible. It breaks down into these perfect moments. It started with what he called mojo, just this unstoppable wave of luck at the roulette table. In just 30 minutes, bam, he's up $20,000. But this is where the story gets really amazing. The very next day, he finds a local orphanage, meets the kids, and just hands the headmistress the entire 20 grand in cash. And then he walked away. And that's the whole point, isn't it? It was never actually about the money for him. For Cage, that win was this magical, once-in-a-lifetime event. If he kept gambling, he would have risked ruining that perfect memory. It was all about preserving the story, not chasing the win. It's a theme you'll see pop up again and again with him. And that instant, to embrace a perfect, totally surreal moment, it gives you a pretty good look into how he sees the world. And that worldview, well, it naturally extends to his choice of companions, which have been just as legendary. We have to start with the infamous two-headed snake. You're not gonna believe this, but yes, this is 100% true. He said he bought it because he'd had a dream about two-headed eagles. The very next day, his manager gets a call that there's a two-headed snake for sale, and he just knew he had to have it. Now, owning a two-headed snake, as you can imagine, comes with its own bizarre set of problems. The two heads had totally different personalities. One was dominant, the other was submissive. They would literally fight over food, even though it was all going to the same stomach. Cage said he had to use a spatula just to separate them when it was feeding time. So yeah, the whole experience, in his own words, eventually got a little too freaky. So he did what any reasonable person who owns a fighting two-headed snake would do. He donated it to the Audubon Zoo. And get this, it lived for another 14 years and became a huge attraction. But you didn't think a two-headed snake was his only unusual pet, did you? Oh no. Let's talk about his African pied crow, which is an incredibly smart bird that came with its own special vocabulary. Cage describes this crow as looking like it's wearing a little tuxedo, and it is so smart that it taught itself to greet him. It says hi when he comes in a room and bye when he leaves, all without any training. But its vocabulary, well, it didn't stop there. And there you have it. The crow also taught itself how to insult him. And Cage, he thinks it's absolutely hilarious. Okay, from talking crows that curse at you, we are now entering the territory of legends that just sound completely fabricated. And we're gonna start with some of his very unusual real estate interests. So this rumor was actually started by his co-star from National Treasure, Diane Kruger. She claimed on a talk show that he bought a literal bat cave. So, is it true? Well, the truth is a little bit different. He was interested in spelunking, cave exploration, and he did find this beautiful cave for sale in the Black Hills, but there were no bats, and his reason for wanting it had nothing to do with becoming a superhero. His real plan was to create a romantic, private grotto. Yeah. He just wanted a unique spot to hang out with his wife. In the end, he decided not to buy it, but of course, the legend of the Bat Cave lives on. Okay, next up, this one feels like a classic Cage myth. Did he actually spend the night in Dracula's castle over in Romania? The simple answer, yep, he did it. He does add this little historical footnote that Vlad the Impaler, the real Dracula, probably never actually stayed there himself. But hey, that didn't stop Nicolas Cage from spending the night. And this brings us to what might be the strangest, most Nicolas Cage legend of them all. The story goes that he was once stalked by mimes. And once again, it is absolutely true. He confirmed it. 2 mimes, in full makeup and costume, just started following him and performing silently right in front of him. He was just their very confused, captive audience of 1. So when you have a life filled with 2-headed snakes, talking crows, and mime stalkers, your public persona becomes this whole legend in and of itself. It's a life so uniquely cinematic that, of course, Hollywood eventually had to make a movie about it. In the film The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he plays a version of himself, but he said he was actually terrified at first. He was really worried the whole movie was just going to be a parody, just making fun of the very persona that all these legends helped create. So what changed his mind? It was a thoughtful, really intelligent letter from the director that convinced him the film had a real heart and wasn't just a joke. So he embraced playing Nick Cage. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. After you separate the fact from the fiction, you find a guy who just seeks out magic, embraces the bizarre, and lives a life so interesting it becomes its own legend. So maybe the man and the myth were never really that different to begin with.